It's a good nickname for Dan.
That is the sound that you should make. Can you make that a little bit wetter?
I will. I will make it as wet as I possibly can.
And that right there, that is the opening of the episode. Hello and welcome to episode 95 of the Game Brew Podcast, the bi-weekly video game podcast where we sip delicious beers, discuss video games, and I am going to make this as wet as I can. I am your host, Ian, Seat the Scaleless Richard, and today I'm joined by Chris, Gwyn, Lord of Cinder.
Right.
Parry me a bunch, please.
And Dan, the Gaping Dragon Rats. On the first half of the show, we'll page through our survivor's guide for new gamers, and in the second half, we'll ask, why aren't there any open world co-op RPGs out there? But first, it's time for a beer. Chris, what are you drinking this week?
Oh, I'm drinking a Avery Hazyish IPA.
Yum.
So the plan was that we were all going to be drinking that, but that's not what happened.
Thanks, Avery.
Avery, we love your beer. We are not very huge fans of your distribution.
So Chris was not happy with the distribution of beers on this podcast the last few weeks. So
apparently what Miller and whatever trash we were drinking before that trash was not okay.
some pumpkin bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
So we picked hazy IPAs, which have been my thing for a while. Avery, I went to last year while I was up in Colorado. They're a good brewery. Fun fact, they have a beer called Trapdoor the Burninator.
Nice.
Yeah, they're a solid brewery.
Trapdoor!
He's a man.
He's a dragon man.
Burninating the countryside.
We're not going to get anywhere in this podcast, and I fucking love it.
No.
Tell me about the beer, Chris.
Really refreshing, kind of light. Has a little bit of kind of a almost milkiness to it.
Oh,
it's a solid hazy-ish IPA.
Okay.
It's it's my go-to.
I am drinking
go-to.
A hazy IPA by Trapdoor Brewing. That's a Vancouver, Washington local beer for local to where I am right now, called Glowed Up. And it's got this really fun can. I don't know if you guys can
that is
see
a
this.
super fun can.
But it's basically
that is cool.
Someone take a picture of that. It's like Lucky Charms on the can.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. If Lucky Charms had just like a bunch of other emojis in it. And it is called Glowed Up, and it's so delicious. It's one of the smoothest hazy IPAs I've ever had. Very citrusy. Like, this would be a great summer beer, to be perfectly honest. It's a little bit fizzy for me. I don't like super fizzy beers, and this one is really fizzy. But that's just about the only thing I don't like about it.
Honestly, it could be your glass.
It could be your glass.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's drinking out of a pickle jar again.
It's not
Not only a pickle jar.
the pickle jar.
It is the Game Brew pickle jar.
But actually, it could be
But
that.
it is Amarillo, Citra, and Simcoe hops, and it is double dry hopped, and it is a 2-row Pils wheat and oats malt.
So interesting. The hop varietals in this is also Amarillo and Simcoe for the initial hopping, and then in the dry hopping, it's Amarillo, Azaka, and Mosaic.
Interesting.
So maybe that's a common theme on hazy IPAs
Maybe.
for Amarillo.
Oh, it's just so smooth. Dan, what are you sipping on over there?
I picked up some Voodoo Ranger Juicy Haze IPA.
Yeah.
It's packed with bright tropical aromas and brilliant citrusy flavors. This unfiltered IPA wraps up with a pleasantly smooth finish. But really, it's medium bodied, so it's not as IPA-y as some other IPAs.
Is that a U.S. Open glass I see there?
It is from the 2010 U.S. Open Brass Band Championship. I think that's the year that all three of us, were involved in the best bass line in any
No. This was a
NABA.
Chicago trip.
Oh, that was in Chicago.
So I think it was me and you. Have you always hand washed that glass? This is a super side note.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, not really. Why?
Because mine
yours,
has wiped off a lot of the stuff. Yeah.
Really? Mine is just better made,
I guess
obviously.
So. Or I have a really good dishwasher.
All right, you too. I'm sorry, but I gotta rein this shit back in.
But anyway, it's good. It's got Citra, Cascade, Centennial, Simcoe, and Nugget hops. Nugget. But yeah, it's nice. I like Voodoo Ranger. I like the things they make, and I like
New Belgium.
This beer, New Belgium. Yep. I do like.
They make good stuff.
Well, I like their Voodoo Ranger
line
series.
That's like their flagship. I guess. Well, I mean, Fat Tire is pretty big too.
I think it's their like new flagship. This is the one they're trying to like push out to people more. Like I've seen a lot of YouTube things and like stuff where they've been sponsored by Voodoo Ranger for stuff, cool. And it's pretty neat. And I think it's good. It's a good beer. It's very widely distributed.
Maybe one day we'll get sponsored by Voodoo Ranger.
One day.
Maybe one day.
Definitely not by Miller.
No,
we blew that a while back. That's all right. We don't need no damn sponsorship.
We don't need no damn money. We don't have any.
That's right. Dan, I gotta hear about Katana Zero. Katana Zero.
Katana Zero. Actually, I started playing it. I started playing it last night as Hannah was falling asleep, and she likes to fall asleep to watching me play video games.
That's awesome and adorable. Yeah.
So I started playing this, and I played it until it was done.
Until it was done.
You ripped in. Yeah, just because it was like until it was done.
Well, it started out as like kind of this sort of 80s-esque feel slasher planning game. It has time aspects where the whole point of the story is you're like this samurai guy who's being sent on these missions to go kill people, and you can like slow down time and do dodging stuff or like hit people's bullets back with your sword. Yeah. But the time aspect comes into the fact that you keep doing it over and over again until you get it right. And that's supposed to be the main character going through what he's going to do in his head before he actually does it.
That's cool.
So like
that's kind of like what we talked about on the last episode.
Yeah, and anytime you die, it says, "Oh, that's not going to work," and then you press any button, and it like rewinds it like a VHS tape and starts it back over again.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, I thought it was just going to be that the whole time, but then it was this really deep story. He doesn't know what his past is, and things keep getting messed up because of this drug they're giving him that allows him to control the flow of time, and he can never actually die because he keeps reliving stuff because of the drug that he's been given. And there was this giant war where he did a bunch of atrocities that he can't remember because of all this stuff. It's like, it got super dark. And like, I was like, I just need to know what happens. And it didn't even end satisfyingly because like, blah, 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 blah. But also it says to be continued at the end. So it's like, no.
All right. So I have one question. At the end of a level, whenever it's successful, does it give you like the super hot style playthrough that like looks perfect and cool?
At the end of like a little section, it does. It gives you like without all of your stuff, which for me, I mean, it was a lot of every once in a while, like you go up, do some slashies, throw some stuff at people, and then there's a little pause while I'm waiting for while I'm looking, okay, what do I do here next? So it wasn't as cool. Now that I'm replaying some levels to try and get achievements, it's a little bit more cool looking because I'm like running through and I know exactly what to do. So I just go and just slicey, and it's really graphic. Like for pixel art, it's pretty gross.
Yeah.
So
it looks a little bit like a side view Hotline Miami kind of in terms of gore.
Yes. Yeah. And the enemy behavior is very much like that too, because as soon as they know, as soon as they see you, you have to be prepared to do whatever counter maneuver you need to for what they're going to do because it's fast.
Yeah.
Like they see you and it's either bullets or punches. There are a lot of things. There's a lot of comedy in it. Like there's one time you can like slice a bunch of things in the levels, like the scenes and stuff. At one point, there's a robot who you walk past, and he talks about how he was designed to kill humans. And I let him go, and then I came back to him another time, and he was just like, "You have shown this robot love. I have never experienced love before. Error. And then he exploded and I got an achievement because
that's awesome.
You killed the murder robot by loving him?
He wasn't programmed to love, so it messed with his programming.
Oh, that's sad. That sounds really interesting though, yeah.
Yeah, I mean I recommend it. It's definitely a really cool game, and I think it was designed and developed by one guy.
Is it what platform, Dan?
Right now, it's if you have Game Pass Ultimate, you can get it for
free
because it's in the Game Pass. But it's on Xbox. I know I've seen it on PC.
And Switch as well.
Yeah, and Switch too.
Great. Very cool. Chris, what have you been doing?
So I finally got to play in-person Warhammer yesterday, which was pretty awesome.
Everything you've been hoping for and more?
I mean, it was a great time. So we played like a really small game and then like a medium-sized game. We were there for about 5 hours.
Oh wow!
There was a lot of
right.
The guy I was playing with, Joel, was really patient with me, which was really nice because I basically was going back and forth between 3 books for all my rules.
Gosh.
So there's a lot of rules. It's a lot different than when I played. Well, not a lot different, but different enough to make a difference since I played 15 years ago. But it was a really good time, and I'm really looking forward to the next game I get to play. I didn't take any pictures because I'm a dummy, but.
Gotta get the real good camera set up so that you can get cinematic views.
But yeah,
did you have like backgrounds and stuff that you made, or was it on like a table with squares, or how did that
with
work?
Warhammer, it's basically you muster an army, you agree on a set point amount. So for the first game, it was 250 points, which is really small. It's basically just like a leader and one other unit. And then for the next game, we played kind of a bigger game. So I had a lot more units. I had 2 leaders, 4 kind of basic units, a heavy support unit, and an elite unit. And he was playing orcs, so he had just a ton of bodies on the table and just doing ridiculous orc stuff. Basically, in 40k, orcs have magic that makes it so if they think it's real, then it is real. So they have like a lot of ridiculous things that can happen. But it was just a ton of fun. And it was a lot more objective based than it used to be. So there's missions now instead of just kind of you have your army on one side, I have my army, smash.
Yeah.
You basically have now like you have objective markers and stuff that you're trying to get to and different things you're trying to achieve during the fight. So it's a lot more, I guess, dynamic. Like you could be losing a ton of units but still be winning. And that's kind of what happened to me.
So you won?
I did. But I also think he was kind of going easy on me.
He's going easy.
He wants you to come back next week.
Yeah. But yeah, so
that's really cool.
We're planning on playing in a month from now, and we're trying to grab a couple other people to start playing. So hopefully that'll happen.
Nice. I always imagine Warhammer as literally being just an RTS, but with a table.
Yeah.
Sort of. It's literally like Total War, but on the table. Because you do everything outside of the combat, and then you get to the combat, you bring what you bring. And it plays out. It's not like you get to build stuff later to help yourself out.
Yeah, it's like that's true. You have to prepare with what you have, and then that's how you defend or attack.
Chris, is this something that you would recommend to a new gamer or somebody who wanted to get into this? Is this like a thing?
So they do have a lot of avenues for a new gamer to get into it. They have a couple different editions of basically like the basic game that come with the rules, and you get 2 sides of 2 different armies. I think it's Necrons and Space Marines right now. And they have 3 different levels of that. So if you and a buddy wanted to start playing it, you could go in, split it, and there's 3 different levels of armies. And the top tier army, like you get a decent sized starting army for each faction for like $70 per person, basically. And it's expensive to get, like, Warhammer's always been kind of expensive. It's an expensive hobby, but they're trying to make some parts of it a little more accessible, I think, and that's cool.
I was always bad at painting.
I am too, but it takes practice. I'm getting better. Also, so Ian and I have been playing Smark Smoles 2 recently together, and that's been a lot of fun. But because of that, he was shaming me for not beating Smark Smoles 1, so I went and killed Gwyn.
So you did beat Dark Smol. Yeah, Smark Smoles 1.
Smark Smoles 1, yeah. I basically I was stuck in the DLC, so I went back and defeated Gwyn just to get the credit, I guess. So just to get that wap me 3 times.
Well, right. So the master plan is to complete all of the 3
trifecta
numbered Schmarkschmoles games to get because we need the Triforce for that series.
Yeah. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's been really good. It's just like I feel like Dark Souls 2 gets a bad rap because
It does.
Because of the whole, like, when you die, your life pool lowers. But, like, there's one ring that you need that happens right in the beginning of the game that totally cancels that out if you want it to.
It's just fucking obnoxious.
It is, like, a little bit, but only for, like, the first 2 hours that you're playing the game, and then you literally don't notice it after that.
And in Dark Souls, fuck.
It's fine. Just get it.
It's fine. We owe so much money right now. Just saying.
In Dark Souls 3, they kind of do the same thing where, like, if you're not kindled or whatever they call it, ashen, I don't know. If you're not that, then you lose basically half your health. But if you are, then you get like your full amount, and it's like
and people can invade your world. Yeah. And
so I guess they wanted that I don't know if dichotomy is the right word, but just like the threat there.
Yeah.
For they always want that whole balance of
risk and reward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm all about that risk.
Basically, the dynamic in our Dark Souls 2 game is, I'm like, okay, so in this section, you got to watch out for, like, these 4 guys and this thing. So what we're going to do is, you're going to zig, I'm going to zag, you're going to slash this guy, I'm going to zap that guy, and then we'll meet back up and it'll be fine. And Chris is like, got it. And half a second into my explanation, he's already smashing his way through the level with reckless abandon.
And 3 out of 4 times, I'm pretty successful.
Because I'm running behind you like, oh God.
Chris is a big smashy. He's our big smashy boy. And he will always be our big smashy boy.
So that's been a lot of fun.
It has, but it's not a game for new gamers, and that's what we wanted to talk about in the first section.
Man, you were really wanting to segue me. You really wanted me to segue that.
I did.
I just did not.
I did. So I've been thinking in this time of general quarantine. You know, you look online, you look at the statistics. There are a ton of people who are either first-time gamers or gamers who are really getting into gaming as a hobby right now. Because there's not a whole lot to do outside. And for us, you know, those of the gaming community, like, that's a great thing. But I also think there are some challenges for the new gamer. And so I wanted to talk through what some of the challenges are, possible solutions, how if you've got like a new gamer or up and coming gamer in your household, you can help them to feel more comfortable and more successful in gaming. And one of the first barriers that I always run into with anybody, and that I ran into when I was getting my computer set up for the first time, was Discord. And I don't know if it's just me, but Discord is not intuitive if you don't already know what you're looking for. And for better or for worse, it is the universal voice chat platform.
I mean, at least for gaming, it kind of is. It's hard to speak about this as somebody who wouldn't know how to use it, because to me, it is very much like an intuitive program, because everything works the exact way that it's supposed to. Like, you go into a room, if it's a chat room, you can chat on it. If it's a text room, you can text on it. They added all of the stuff where now you can do video chat and stuff like that over it too, which is also very nice. But that's very utilitarian. It's not user friendly in the sense that it doesn't hold your hand in any way to get to those places. But for me, it's great. But yeah, I could totally understand why it's hard for people to get right into using it.
Yeah. So I think the reason why, at least for me, like, that I understood how to use it immediately basically was because I had used Ventrilo before.
Right.
Playing WoW. So it's basically like if Ventrilo and Skype had a love child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, so it combines the room function of Ventrilo with kind of some of like the video chat and just general chatting and kind of openness of Skype. For me, it was never like a problem to understand it, but at the same time, talking to my nephew Clayton, he basically said he's downloaded Discord, and he says he doesn't understand how it works.
Right, and that same thing happened with my Marianne's nephews, who have started to play like Rocket League and stuff with us every once in a while, where it's like they open Discord and they're like, so what now? Because you have to like add the server and then you have to click on the chat and like
Yeah, you have to go into a room basically.
Right. And when you load a new server, if I do recall, there are 2 channels. One of them is called under text channels and it's called general. And the other one is under voice channels and it's called general. And you're like, okay, click on general. They always click on the text one.
Yeah.
And they're like, it doesn't work that way. I will say though that the direct call feature that's in it, as long as the person is your friend, is super easy to do.
Right.
Like all you have to do is just call them or make a chat like with them, and then you can call them or do a video call or a voice call at any point. And it's not like money. Like you don't have to pay Zoom or Skype to do any of this stuff. It's just there for you to use.
Yeah. So in that sense, it is.
I'm still wondering how Discord's making money. I know they're transitioning right now because they're trying to shed a little bit of their gamer vibe and be a little more general, I think.
Well, that's rude.
That's interesting. I mean, honestly, if you think about it that way, it's really like Slack, but with video chat and call chat integrated, which is
That's exactly
great,
what it is.
because Zoom is not great. It brings up to me what Xbox gets right, which is as long as you have a headset plugged in or attached, it's really easy to get into a voice chat with somebody, right? And even that barrier, I think, for a new gamer, removing that barrier can be a really big thing, because even with like someone who has some familiarity with a console, even just getting through that console's UI can be a struggle. And I really want to particularly call out the Xbox UI as bad. It is difficult to work through, even for me.
Yeah, it was one of the bad points when like Xbox One especially came out. Like that UI was not great for trying to keep up.
It's improved over time, but I mean, Xbox UI versus PlayStation UI, which one is easier to go through? I would say the Nintendo Switch. So, I mean, there's generally that, but I mean, Xbox makes it like a computer, and that's kind of where there's a lot of stuff that is for new gamers that is really nice, because it's like if you know how to use a computer, you know there's like, okay, there's applications or a smartphone, there's applications that you can install and start. Like I have a little tabby that has all of my streaming platforms on it, so I just relabeled it streaming, and then all of the little tabbies on there are like Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max. I was going to name some more, but then my brain stopped working.
I think the main thing, though, is that a lot of people tend to gravitate towards whatever they're familiar with. And if they're not familiar with anything that is like these things, then they have zero idea how to use them. And I think that's the main problem is finding the common denominator.
It would really make a lot more sense for, and actually Nintendo does this to a certain degree, but for video game consoles in the future to have their UIs look a lot like an Android or an iPhone phone or tablet UI, where everything is just in little folders and there's like maybe a cogwheel somewhere for settings. You know what I mean? Because that's, as far as universal familiarity goes, that's the bar. And when you look at a Nintendo UI, as soon as that thing comes on, it's like a line of these are your games. And that's pretty much it, unless you're doing like the menu stuff on the bottom, which is brilliant. The Nintendo UI for the Switch, especially because of how lightweight the processing power on the Switch is outstanding. They did a really nice job with it.
Yeah. All of your stuff is right there.
You can
it
use
does
the
have,
touchscreen.
like you said, and it has all those 4 little things. It's like you want to get new games, this is where to do it. You want to see news, this is where to do it. You want to touch your settings, this is where to do it.
That's it.
You know? That's all you need.
Well, I think that also the kind of the difference is like that is focused on gaming 100%, whereas Xbox isn't. So it's
an entertainment system.
Right. So it's trying to figure out if you want to play games, or if you're trying to watch something, or if you're trying to stream something, or if you're trying to buy something. Like and so like,
and especially because you could do so many, like you could buy so many things through it, like videos, like, oh my God, I can't use my brain.
You made the error of you taking a nap today. That's why.
That's probably why. Games, TV shows, movies, new apps, all that stuff you can buy through the Xbox store. So there's you go into that tab, and then there's 8 other tabs you can go through.
And originally the Xbox One was supposed to be a workout console too. Remember, because it shipped with the Kinect, which was. Yep. You had to have it at the beginning of the Xbox One. So do I somewhere.
Mine is disconnected. I don't use it.
I like mine because it says hi to me, so I say hi Microsoft back. But I mean, we're complaining a lot right now about a lot of stuff, and so that's not what I want to focus on. I want to focus on stuff that is good, not bad.
So tell us something. Well, so Chris, I guess the question is,
tell me something good.
If you were inviting someone to gaming for the first, say someone was really excited to get into it, what platform would you recommend? PC, Switch, Xbox, PlayStation? How do you get someone into it?
So if someone wanted to build a PC right now and wanted to download a bunch of stuff, there's a couple lists. I think on Reddit especially, there's a list of must-have applications.
Right.
So those are super easy to find. They include different monitoring things, different good antivirus software that's not super annoying, like Norton or
Kaspersky.
AVG. Yeah. So Malwarebytes is usually...
Kaspersky doesn't really exist in the United States anymore, just saying.
Malwarebytes is pretty solid.
Yeah, Malwarebytes is solid. I would go.
But I would download Steam. I would download Epic just to get the free games every week for sure. That's a big one, I think. Yeah. It's just, regardless of what you're doing, just get those free games. Even if you're thinking about getting a PC soon, download Epic.
Free games.
Get the free games.
You could just go to your phone, hit the download button, and then it'll just put it in your thing.
Yeah, it's
it's free.
It's free. But if you've never touched a video game before and you're somehow bit by that bug, I would 100% recommend a console, either a Switch or I think an Xbox.
Honestly, to jump in, I would go Switch. If you've never played anything before and you want something that's going to be easy to start, easy to play games on, and you'll also have the capability to take it with you places, definitely Switch.
Yeah.
Because it's the best of both worlds, and it's simple. Again, Hannah, I'm talking about Hannah all the time. She's my beautiful girlfriend who I love, that's why.
That was your beautiful girlfriend.
Brownie points for Dan.
She might actually make me brownies. But she never really played games, and then she got a Nintendo Switch and played Animal Crossing, and she's been practicing Mario Kart because she wants to kick my ass. Which I've told her, and I've told her this many times, it's not going to happen. I will never go easy on you in a video game. I just want to tell you that. It's you can't take the master down.
Well, that is actually something that, so my beautiful and wonderful girlfriend Marianne and I, that's also a dynamic that I feel like is something that probably many people who are getting into gaming feel is anyone who has been doing gaming for a long period of time has this built-in skill set where, we've been using 2 joysticks since we had 2 thumbs. We have a built-in knowledge. We have a built-in knowledge set because we played so many games. We understand the tropes of, fire, water, ice elements, damage, different kinds of armor, shields, and how those things work, because developers have sort of standardized them over time to allow for good usage. We have such a built-in knowledge and skill base that can be really intimidating and off-putting to people who are learning alongside of us. And so how do you mitigate that? How do you put yourself on the same plane as someone who's just starting and just getting going with this?
There's a little cartoon image that I used to see all the time, which is where there's this giant animated guy wearing armor who's standing over a little person with a tiny little a tiny little handheld thing. Yes. And he's and it's just all of these arrows that are just you're bad, you're terrible, and just standing over. I was and then you press the A button and then that makes you jump. And then he's oh boy. But that's honestly that's what we should be doing for people. There's and we know my feelings on gatekeeping within the community. As much as I hate that term in general, I think it's used as a gatekeeping term. But anyone can do it. And it's just sometimes it just takes somebody to show you how.
Yeah, but
and if you could show someone how,
I guess what I'm asking is like, how do you make that place of like comfort and learning happen without overwhelming someone? Like, what strategies do you use? Like, is it hardware? Is it a certain game?
Just to pick a game, find a game that they like, and let them go and let them play that game. Like, don't try and like push them into a like lane that isn't theirs. You know. If someone doesn't feel comfortable on a black diamond, but you do, you're not going to take them down a black diamond just because you know how to do it. You're going to start them on the bunny slopes because they're going to feel comfortable on the bunny slopes.
It's about comfort.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good tip, Dan.
Well, it's about comfort and familiarity. It's something that you can connect with immediately.
Ha.
You know what I mean?
Connect.
Yeah. Yeah. Xbox.
Well, no. What do you mean by that, Chris?
If someone was new to gaming, I wouldn't show them a game like a Total War, because that's something that just has a ton of depth and a ton of rules that you kind of have to know. Like there can't be like a huge learning curve. There can't I wouldn't take someone and show them Schmarchmoles immediately. You know what I mean? Like that's because it's just not going to be fun, and they're going to be turned off immediately.
Yeah.
So it has to be something that's accessible and also has connection to them. So someone might be interested in gaming and want something goofy, and they might want to play a Mario game.
Yeah.
Or they might want something a little more serious, and they might want to play Breath of the Wild. So both of those can be entry points, kind of different tempers to them. And different people might gravitate to one versus the other. But they're both very good games, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And also realistically simple to start up and kind of spend time with and get the hang of.
Yeah. I also think that games that have really... Like, I think control schemes are another aspect of games where, like, you could play a really complex game with a lot of different systems moving around with a new gamer, as long as the control scheme allows you to do that. So, for example, Marianne and I have a great time playing this game called For the King. It's basically like a tabletop exploration combat RPG, but in video game form. And the reason we can do that is because everything is just menu button presses. There's like basically no real-time gameplay in the game, but it's still an amazing game nonetheless. It has a ton of really complex systems: the healing, the fighting, the cooperation, the items, how you can hand stuff over to each other, and navigating the world. Like, all of that is really complex, and it allows for sort of gaining that knowledge as to like, okay, what does it mean that they have armor? How does that affect how I attack them? And you can sort of like talk through those things, or like applying status effects without there being sort of that it's got to happen now kind of barrier, which I think is really helpful. And it's another reason that I also think that, and Dan, you might hate me, but it's another reason that I think that CCGs are actually another really helpful way for new gamers to get into games.
I mean, I don't hate CCGs, but I understand that. Because it's again, it's like the basic rule set. Yeah, it gives you like, here's the rules. If you learn the rules and follow the rules, then you'll have fun because you'll understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I just think there's too many of them. That's all my only problem with it.
But so I would recommend to people to play games that don't require you to, or to play some games that don't require the new gamer to like make a bunch of really complicated button presses all at the same time as learning systems, right? You kind of have to choose. Do you want systems training or do you want button press training?
Right.
What other barriers do you guys think are out there? I mean, I have a couple more in mind, but what other barriers to new gamers do you think are out there?
I mean, other gamers. That's my biggest thing.
Oh, wow. That's really sad.
But that's that's where if you start to play tennis with a bunch of other people who are really good at tennis and you suck at tennis, you're going to be really bad. You're going to hate tennis. Yeah, then you're going to hate tennis. Like it's just that's what's going to happen, you know. And if you're in an environment where you're playing a game and there's just a bunch of people who are just like, you're bad all the time, then you're going to have a bad time. It's just kind of what it is. And that's why I think like this is impossible, but universally we should have more of a hey, we're here to have a good time. Everybody, you know, be nice and chill to each other. But then League of Legends wouldn't exist.
I mean, I think the thing to me is like anything else. Like if you're interested in something and you want to do something, it's going to take time for you to be good at, just like anything else. Like it takes practice, but you have to be willing to kind of be okay with that and kind of put yourself out there a little bit and just be comfortable with being uncomfortable with something, I guess. Like, I mean, there are definitely games that are going to make you comfortable, and those are good. Like Stardew Valley is a lot of fun. Fuck. That's another
It is. For me. Unless you will.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
I just think that, I guess what I'm saying is that I think it's a shame, and I use that phrase specifically for a reason, to shame all of you fucking edgelord wannabe assholes out there. But I think
tell us how you really feel.
But I think it's a shame that like the assumed dynamic of online gaming is like, you're going to run into people saying mean things to you. You're going to run into people who teabag your head. You're going to run into people who are saying like racist things for no reason. Like that's terrible, but there are ways around it. I will say that like Discord is really cool because you can go find channels that have like interests. And I'm sure there is one for gamers who just want to have a chill time out there. I don't know what it is. Maybe I should go find it. Oh, it's the Game Brew. It's the Game Brew. The Game Brew Discord.
Lo-fi games to chill and study
that
to.
Was fucking solid.
Yeah, but find a community that wants to be there to support you. We are one such community. We don't have to be that community, but
we're happy to be because we love everybody and everybody should play games.
Yeah. And I just want to say that, you know, if you're having a lot of adversity in the direction that you're going from video games, I've learned that means you're probably going in the right direction. So,
how do you mean?
If you're fighting a lot of tough enemies, you're going in the right direction.
Oh, that's true. But sometimes you may just want to stay in one place and beat a bunch of that one enemy.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to grind some levels, you know?
Yeah, grind some boars until you can.
I also think it's helpful to point out to new gamers, and maybe this is a wrong thing, but like the things that I love about gaming is there's kind of infinite possibility for how you want to self-define, which for us old folks is like kind of meh, like we're just used to it. But I think for young people or people who are finding their identity, gaming can really be a place of solace because you get to define yourself. Your screen names, your character profiles, you know, what you look like, what you sound like, that's all up to you. And that can be a really freeing space for people. And so I just want to encourage them to use that.
Definitely. Definitely a good space to do that. That sounded really wet, Ian.
Is it wet enough for you, Dan?
Fucking moist.
It's wet enough for me. In fact, you know what? It's probably wet enough to end the first half here, too.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this moistness up. When we come back, we're going to talk about why there aren't more co-op RPGs. Stick to our moistness. Stick with us. Bye. All right, shall we kick the second half?
Kick it.
Hello, and welcome back to the second half of the Game Brew Podcast, episode 95.
Wow.
We are like squarely in boy band territory in terms of episode numbering right now. Right?
You mean
Weren't
because
the 90s?
1990?
Yeah.
I guess so. Because we had... Hold on.
Backstreet
let me do it.
Boys. Hold on.
Yeah, we passed B-boy to
93.
boy band.
Formed in Orlando.
93.
Yeah.
Yeah, B-boy territory.
No, that was before. That was in the 80s.
Late 80s. Yeah.
Oh, I guess 96
boy.
was Backstreet Boys, and then Backstreet's Back is 97.
Dude, they came back really fast, though.
Dream Street was in the late 90s.
How about 98
Five?
degrees? Though?
98 degrees, yeah.
98 degrees. Do you remember 5? It was a 5 and then IVE. They were a British boy band.
That spelling makes
That's from
sense.
1998. It's pretty.
You know what slapped, though? That song by 98
damn.
Degrees from Mulan. True to Your Heart. Right? That was 98
How did it
degrees.
go? Hum a few bars.
Yeah.
True to your heart. No?
I know it. I'm struggling to remember how it's related to Mulan at all.
It was in the credits.
Was it?
Yeah.
They didn't just do an R. It wasn't just the Christina Aguilera version of
Mirror? No.
Reflection. Reflection.
Mirror.
A mirror does reflect. A mirror does reflect. Because I love that. I love that song.
You know what else
Oh.
we should reflect on? This beer.
What? Oh.
Which is
yeah,
fantastic.
I guess
And also,
so.
I'm feeling wonderfully drunk at this point. That's great.
I could tell when you forgot to end the first half. I was like, oh, I might need a hand. But yeah, it's good. They're high alcohol content. Hazy IPA is like 7.5%.
Are they?
They're potent
Mine
potables.
is at least. But it's so drinkable. It's just so nice and easy.
Refreshing. It's
Juicy.
It is juicy.
Juicy. It's juicy and hazy. Also, shout out to all of the like beer companies that are brewers. That's what they're called. All of the brewers that have been using those cans that you can put your like design on. That all the cans are the same and they make it's like super easy. So shout out to whatever company that was that created those and made it easier.
Yeah, they're pretty great. I love that.
Juicy. Oh, I love that movie
It's
so
so good. Pick of Destiny. Good movie.
I'm trying to find a way. I'm trying
You're
to find a way
struggling
to make.
to segue right here.
No, I'm not struggling to segue. What I was gonna say is I'm
Do you need
trying
some
to find a
help with
way.
buddy?
I'm trying to find a way to not be totally whiny about the second half, but I just need to know why there aren't any co-op RPGs out there. And before listener, hold on. Before listener, you get all in a twist. Divinity Original Sin and Divinity
there are lots of RPGs
Original
out there.
Sin 2 are great co-op RPGs. However, that's one game, A, and B, there's no like it's very like much like a D&D sort of strategy simulator when it comes to combat, right? I'm talking co-op Skyrim or co-op like Dragon's Dogma situation is what I'm looking for here. And a B, I understand that Diablo 3 exists. That's not an RPG. That,
Yes,
my friends, is a dungeon
Diablo
crawl.
2 was.
Diablo 2 was kind of.
It had a skill tree.
Yeah, that skill trees. God damn it!
I just don't understand. I don't understand why this is not a thing. This is not like a thing that has been done yet or done recently.
I mean, we were playing one this week.
So Dark Souls is what you're saying.
Oh, I was going to say Smarchmoles, but yeah.
So Dark
Close
Souls,
enough.
here's the thing with Dark Souls. Dark Souls, yes, I actually kind of agree with you where like this is the closest thing that we have right now, but there are so many barriers to cooperation in Dark Souls. You have to be of a similar level. You have to have the right item and know the right item exists. You also have to know all the proprietary bullshit for each of the Dark Souls game to be able to connect. Like
That's
you have to
also
like
true.
be of the same alliance. You have to
And
sometimes
it's
have the
also
same
like
ring.
different every game.
And it's different every game. In Dark Souls 2, you have to worry about soul memory, which is
Yeah.
not the total souls you have, but the total souls you've ever seen. Like this is
Oh my god,
silliness, right? This is absurd.
that's a lot.
And the whole
That's a lot of things.
that
to go
whole
through.
system is built to try to prevent players from cooperating in the way that we're cooperating, right? It's supposed to be sort of a tenuous, ghostly sort of co-op, not necessarily one that's purpose built. So again, I return to why the hell does this game not exist?
Can I play Diablo's advocate for a second?
Please.
So I would argue that the reason that there's not a lot of them, is because kind of a lot of times those like Skyrim, like Elder Scrolls style RPGs give you all of this story room and kind of are for you to kind of craft the character in the world in the way that you want to craft it. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's not about it. You don't want to bring somebody else into that little private world you've created for yourself.
I think that's true. However, why the hell not?
I think a lot of the times the conversation kind of goes, oh man, we're going to do Skyrim, but multiplayer. Oh, you mean like an MMO? No, that's not what it... Oh, yeah, it's going to be awesome. We're going to have so many subscribers. No, that's not what I mean. No, it's going to be great. We're going to have so much money. Every month they're going to be paying money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sense, like that's absolutely true. Like the desire for a co-op... Yeah, the desire for a co-op RPG got completely subsumed by the desire for developers to make all of the money.
And then they were like, "Oh man, Fallout would be so cool with a buddy." And then they were like, "Oh yeah, let's do that. And then it's gonna just be like only you, just people in there." No, that's not what I meant because I want NPCs. No, it's gonna be great because everyone's gonna be like NPCs in the game. And so like it's just like I feel like they're not listening to what people want. People literally just want Skyrim with a buddy.
Yeah,
literally. That's
like, and that's
what people want.
And that's what Fallout 76 is kind of becoming. Like that's with their new Wastelanders.
Well, they've had another patch, a big patch, I think, since Wastelanders.
Okay. Well, but even with those patches, they've added NPCs into the game. Mm-hmm. So it's getting closer. It's getting closer to kind of the thing that everybody wanted it to be 2 years ago whenever it came out.
But it's still
a year and a half ago.
It still has other people in there. So it kind of has that. Not MMO,
but that like
MO,
that PvP, yeah.
And like there's that whole like way that you don't have to really PvP. Like if someone shoots you, it does very little damage, but if you shoot them back, then it's on kind of thing. So
it's like it's on.
But it's on. Yeah, it's literally all people want is just Skyrim with two people.
So.
And there have been people modding it and trying to do that.
For years.
For like almost a decade at this point. Wow, Skyrim's almost 10 years old. Fuck.
And yet they're still releasing it for new consoles.
Are they really releasing it?
Todd Howard does it again.
I mean, he's just like I just imagine that he's got like a Scrooge McDuck style like
room
like filled that just says Skyrim money like right over the top.
And he's dolphin diving
in. Oh boy. Well,
hilarious.
what then? Like, what do you think are the because if everybody wants it,
yeah, why doesn't it exist?
Why don't we have it? Like, let's answer this question. Why don't we have it?
Well, so
what are the?
I think there are a couple of barriers. I think one is that part of what makes Skyrim great is that sense of the ability to like live in the world and like discover and really go at your own pace, and the type of designing it takes to make that happen
open world
can feel like it's in opposition to the type of designing that makes a co-op game feel good, right? A co-op game that feels good is seamless. It's one where you can just drop in and hang out with anybody of a different level. It's one where there aren't a lot of pauses where one player is like watching a story beat or reading a book or interacting with the NPC and the other player is just kind of sitting there waiting for them to do that, right? Those kind of interactions that are so important in Skyrim, those kind of interactions that I love in Skyrim, especially the reading the books part. Like I don't know if anybody else would put up with me wandering through the forest for 45 minutes looking for a specific mushroom because I read about it in a book and I want to try it in alchemy. You know what I mean? That's a single player.
Disagree. But like you could make that hunt interesting.
Go on, yeah.
Like it could be a dangerous ass forest. I don't know. Like, but I think the problem is like You said you want it to be easy to jump in and out, but at the same time, like for realism, like feeling like you're in the game.
Immersion.
To feel like you're immersed in the game, you can't have people just hopping in and out. Like that makes it that doesn't feel real. So like I think there needs to be something where like you go to a spot and that spot is where you summon someone or something like that.
Yeah, it's like the gateway between rules.
Yeah, so like there has to be that rule basically set up from the basis, but that can be done pretty easily, I think.
I think so. And I also, I mean, I think another person might throw out the barrier of like level scaling. And this was a much bigger issue in Oblivion, but it's always been sort of part of the Skyrim and RPG co-op problem set where like, if I'm level 1 and I want to hang out with my level 20 buddy, that might present an issue.
Well, there are a lot of, to bring up like Borderlands 3, that had a system where it like a lot of games do now, where if there is a level differentiation where it will scale things to your level on an individual like platform. So, or it will like boost your damage so that you do more against these enemies and you'll still gain experience faster and things like that. So I think that is less of a barrier than you think it might be for that.
There are some games that like kind of rubber band your level a little bit. So like if you're a level 100 and you join a level 5 game, you might be level 20. But it doesn't feel good if you're level 100 to swing at stuff and not one-shot it like you should.
Right.
That doesn't feel good, but at the same time, it doesn't feel good
to be one-shotting all of the things that your friend is trying to fight.
Right, yeah. So like it's a really tough balance. Like I feel like where
that's why I really like that sort of rubber banding, because it's like, yeah, you're still really powerful and you're not going to have a hard time with it, but you're still going to get to enjoy the battle experience of something.
I guess that's true. Yeah. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about both of them. Like, I don't want to just be like fucking useless. You
want to be a benevolent god and only smite the creatures that deserve it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a tough balance, I think.
Yeah, it's a tough balance, and in different ways has been dealt with. And like you very well could do a system where, you know, levels 1 through 10 you can group, levels 11 through 20 you can group, right? But not not in between to sort of like cap different sets. And I think another thing that is like a barrier to this is the whole like quests and quest progression. So if I do a quest in Chris's world, does that mean that I completed that quest in my world? And how does that relate to main quest, right? That's always like an issue.
There was a game we were playing where that became an issue.
It was,
I forget what it was. Was it
Remnant from the Ashes?
Yeah, it was Remnant from because it was just like, oh wait, where are you? Oh, there's not levels. There's not like objective sharing. So even if you didn't finish the thing, you wouldn't get the objectives in yours for being in somebody else's game.
Right. And what's interesting is that in Schmarks it's less annoying because you don't really have objectives. You just have bosses to kill.
Yeah, you just got to murder
And
stuff.
for whatever reason, that's way less annoying than feeling like I have to do a quest in mine and then in yours. Right. I don't know why. I think
it's because the difficulty with a boss is like the technical aspects of beating it, right? You have to do dodge this, strike here, shield here, whatever. With a storyline, you're talking about the joy in that story time a lot of the time being the discovery of what happens, right?
That's a great
You go and you open a box and then the box sucks you in and teleports you to this different land, right? And when you go back and do it again, if the gameplay and if the visuals and if the loot isn't valuable, then redoing that story feels like a complete waste of time.
That's 100% it. You're right.
Yeah, that's definitely it.
Thank you for answering my question.
I do want to go back a second to what you said before about like the reading a book or like talking to people, because that's the other thing. And that's the other thing, and I think is probably the biggest thing in the room. Giggity. Or it's the biggest roadblock in my opinion, because so much about these RPGs are story based. No, sorry. I was reading the thing. But I'm going to start that thought over again because
I was just saying, like, I feel like I think this was going to, like, I think all three of us have played things, and, like, I feel like Ian likes to skip things sometimes.
Oh, Ian does like to skip things.
Unless I'm expressly there for the story. Like in Skyrim, I don't skip things. But in Dark Souls,
but, like,
I'm not there to watch the like cutscene about what the boss looks like. I don't give a shit. Let me kill him.
Really? Like, I fucking love that shit.
Well,
That shit's awesome.
I love that shit. Like that's like legitimately. And that's like I love to like know what the thing is. I love movies and I love the cinematic aspect of it. I love the fact that whenever you're doing a quest line where you have to like flirt with this woman, you can pick all of these different little flirty things to say to her to like try and do. And I love to sit there and just go, ooh, which one am I gonna do? Or like if I decide to this NPC I'm gonna be a particularly big asshole, then I select the like narrative prompts that are all of those really big asshole things to say.
Do you choose?
I do.
Do you individually choose, like, I'm going to be an asshole to this NPC?
Oh, yeah, I do. Totally.
That's really
pick
interesting.
NPCs.
I've never done that. So, like, I've always been like, oh, I'm playing a good character, so I'm going to be the nicest to everyone ever.
Oh no! I typically will choose at least one or two people who I'm just like,
this
fuck
guy
you in particular.
That's a great way to do it.
But I mean, but yeah, it's like it's so hard to do that with another person because like whenever sometimes we play with Ian, he doesn't really care about some of that stuff, so he just kind of skips through it, and that's like when we go, it's like, oh, I'm gonna sit here and watch this cinematic because I want to see what happens with Cade 6 and this guy here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like in a game that I'm playing by myself and I feel like I want to invest in the story, I will go and invest in the story. In games where like I'm not in that's tough. Because part of what makes Dark Souls great is all the lore you get in the back end. But generally how I get that is not by reading the item things. I just
going into Wikipedia.
Yeah, I play YouTube videos about Dark Souls lore while I'm playing Dark Souls. So I could just like hyper nerd myself real hard.
I remember specifically playing with you guys whenever we play, when we defend the Earth Defense Force, because I have all of the audio for like the other characters in the game on, so I get all the story stuff, but you guys have it turned off somehow, and I don't know what. For
me, it's like I don't have it in my headphones because I have it on the second.
Oh, that's right.
So that's why I think hear it. I don't know why Ian doesn't hear it, but that's why I don't hear it.
I think there was like a setting I told you guys to turn down at one point, and it was wrong, and then and I said, "Oh, you could turn this back up," but nobody did. But like, so like I'm like going like, oh, the bugs are like this big because of this, and you're like, okay, shoot the big monster. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think another challenge to this kind of game not existing is that like maybe I'm wrong, but maybe there's just not a market for it.
I mean, there's like 3 people here that would buy it.
So at least 3. We could say cap it at 3, and then. But then there's going to be an executive. Well, I mean, if it's not 4, then that's really only just one user at this point. So.
Yeah. But I like. Yeah, it's also interesting to me to think about what was that Marvel game that recently came out?
Yeah, Marvel's Avengers by Square Enix.
Squeenix failure.
It's kind of antheming.
It's tanking, and the reason is that there's no end game. But I also think this is another example where a studio tried what that studio, at least internally, would describe as a co-op action RPG, and it tanked.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I mean, but that's...
I haven't played it, so I don't know if I would describe it as that, but I don't know if that's what we're describing here.
Well, it's not, technically, but I mean, like, kind of Anthem and those games where it is like you're jumping into an individual instance and co-oping on something together. Yeah, Destiny. Technically, I would refer to those as cooperative games, which have a role-playing aspect, but not like in the traditional role-playing games.
There's not really decisions to be made.
Yeah, instead it's more of just actioning
Shoot
together.
the thing, get experience, and
yeah. So I think, and that's failure is more so on they did not. They anthemed real hard. They didn't plan anything for it, and then they didn't like release the stuff with all of the bugs fixed. They released it before it was ready,
And the microtransactions were abusive.
and the microtransactions are just ridiculous. So it's
which is
just,
a shame.
I love Marvel so much,
Right.
and it makes me sad.
Like, I have interest in that game kind of still, but like, I don't know if I
I
should.
still have it. I have it. If anybody wants to play it with me, that's the other thing. It's hard to find people to play with because
I'll
nobody
play
plays it on PC.
But I don't know how much I'll pay for it.
There's no cross-platform play. That's the biggest thing.
Oof.
So it's
Do you have it on
so
PC?
it's yeah, even on PC. There's no
No, do you have it
cross-platform.
on PC?
Oh, I do. I have it on PC.
But
yeah.
I love
I've got
that
a fancy game card.
I love that.
Good.
I love that. That's like a fuck up now to not have cross-platform. That makes me so happy.
Remember when nothing had that? That
I
was
do. Like 9 months ago, that was awful.
oh gosh.
Yeah. So it just blows my mind that this thing doesn't exist. It feels like all of the challenges are ones that have either been addressed in MMOs with like instancing, level scaling that would be easily translatable to a like smaller multiplayer sort of co-op. And
And
like-
you mentioned Dragon's Dogma, and it has like a sort of multiplayer aspect, but
right with the followers or things like the
pawns.
yeah. I don't know if anyone played the multiplayer version of Dragon Age Inquisition. Did you guys do that at all?
I didn't.
So it was basically like a dungeon run, like a dungeon. What am I trying to say? Basically a dungeon crawl, but with Inquisition gameplay, all in real time. So there was no pause. So like the tank really had to tank, the DPS really had to be on it. Like heals and support needed to be doing their thing the whole time. And I thought that was a really wonderful platform for something that could have turned into like a bigger game, because it was just like a rush. Like you do one dungeon and then another dungeon. There wasn't any like open world exploration or anything like that. But that was a really great example of what the genre could be and what it would really mean to do something like that. And I think things on Steam like Blightbound have promise to them, but I also I think aren't really achieving that goal that I'm looking for, which is like a true co-op RPG. It's just not, aside from the Divinity games, which again, they're much more like D&D simulators. I'm having a really hard time thinking about like a co-op action RPG that I can just boot up and play.
Divinity's not an action RPG.
It's not.
It's a classic RPG.
Well,
It's an ISO.
I think, and here's my final thoughts on it. I think that we're not going to get this game. Like, we're not going to get it until somebody who with the cojones to actually put out this game and not give in to the money hungry microtransaction sort of
MMO.
Yeah, it might
like
be
MMO.
It might be an indie,
sort of thing.
but the problem with it being an indie is that like it brings in a whole level of other difficulty because of netcode and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, so, I mean, unless somebody actually sets out to make this game, we're probably going to get little bits and pieces of it in all of the other games, but we're never going to see anything that's this perfect sort of co-op Elder Scrolls experience.
I shall be sad forever.
You will be sad till the day that you die.
In the meantime, someone come explain to me my Monster Hunter is cool, and then we'll have a great time.
Also,
Wait, are you talking about the movie? Because that movie looks terrible.
Oh, it does look bad.
The game.
Also, but have you seen the trailer for
Yes.
Monster Hunter movie?
It looks. There's
You
guns,
should
and
watch
looks
it
awful.
because it will make you mad.
Fabulous. Any other final thoughts?
If you know of a game like this that we're talking about,
Oh,
let
yeah.
us know because we'll play the shit out of it.
Yeah, we'll play the hell out of it.
Honestly, we will. In the meantime, if you want to hang out with us, go to bit.ly/Dummies Disco Brew. So you can join our Discord.
Disco Brew, yeah.
And you can find our podcast, obviously, on all the podcast platforms. You're listening to us, so you know we're here.
You're listening to it right now.
Yeah, but share it with a friend. Share it with your new gamer friends. Tell them to come hang out with us. We love them already, even though we have yet to meet. I guess that's gonna be it for tonight. For I'm drunk. That's it. That's the end.
You can also go to bit.ly/gamebrew and sign up for Humble Bundle, where you can give money to different charities and stuff, as well as get a bunch of cool games every month by indie developers and big developers alike. So go sign up for that.
Yeah, there's Yakuza and Darksiders 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which Yakuza?
Yakuza Kiwami 2.
Nice! You should play that game. It's so good. Yakuza is such a good game series.
All right, folks. That's it for us tonight. Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Halt. Did you call me Chris Rotz?
I think I did.
Okay, so quickly just say...
Rights.
Just say rights.
Yeah.
That's going to sound great in the edit.
Chris Rights. Actually, you should. What we should do is have like a. Actually, hold on. Rights. Put that in the edit.